Hello and welcome to Hammer Time, a Hammer horror podcast, part of the Evolution of Horror Network. I'm Becky Darke, I'm a film critic and Hammer newbie, and I'm joined by my co-host, human encyclopedia of film and TV, and Hammer superfan, Kevin Lyons. Hi, Kev.
Hi, Becky. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Excellent.
I think it's going to be quite an interesting chat, so I'm quite G'd up for it.
It's going to be a bit of a milestone for me. We shall come to that in a moment. But yes, it's going to be a bit of a milestone, this one.
In this podcast, Kevin and I are watching and discussing every horror film in Hammer's back catalogue. And this week we've got some mad medical sci-fi with The Man Who Could Cheat Death from 1959.
This man who could cheat death, who knows the secret of immortality.
Our Hammer Time discussions are all spoilerific, and we go into plot details and chat about endings of the films. So if you haven't seen The Man Who Could Cheat Death yet and you would like to watch it before you listen to our episode, it's currently available in a few places, actually. You can stream it for free with ads on Tubi, or you can rent it on Apple TV or Prime, or just take a look at a site like Just Watch and you'll find out the best place for you. Kevin.
Yes.
The Man Who Could Cheat Death. Kevin to his friends.
could he cheat boredom? We may get into that as we go along.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. This is it. Sorry, guys. Brace yourself. Spoiler warning. I'm not very keen on this one. So if you are, you might want to duck out now.
I had a little look on Letterboxd as I was logging The Man Who Could Cheat Death after I'd watched it, and gave it a little star rating. I was like, what does Kevin think of this one? And then I saw and I was like, oh no.
Oh dear. Do you know what? This is going to sound terribly stalkery of both of us. I always check what you've put as well.
Yeah.
I always check, has she seen the film yet? Because then I know, we'll get all the sort of the notes that we want to go and talk through. We'll get all those any second now. And B, what did she think of it so I can brace myself? So yeah, here we go. We're spying on each other when we're not even recording.
We are.
How about
I know.
that?
I love it. All right. Well, let's get into it then, Kevin.
Let's get into it.
We are back to sort of questionable medical practices a la Frankenstein, with men playing God and mucking about with mortality and all of that kind of thing. Let's talk about kind of production and stuff before we come on to talk about our opinions. So how did The Man Who Could Cheat Death come about for Hammer?
Well, as we've already seen with previous episodes, the Hollywood studios were now queuing up for a little bit of the Hammer action. We've already seen Universal, Warner's, United Artists and Columbia coming on board. You know, they weren't just coming on board for the horror films, but clearly that's what they were interested in.
Right.
You know, they were helping them make their war films and their comedies just on the grounds that if we keep them quiet with that, they'll make us a horror film. And so it was now Paramount's turn to come calling.
Oh, okay.
And they're not a studio particularly synonymous with horror films. They've done a few, but they're not the first name that springs to mind. But they had got the rights to Barry Lyndon's 1939 play, The Man in Half Moon Street. That's Barry Lyndon, not Barry Lyndon, not nothing to do with Kubrick in this case.
I know. I had to, so I had a little sort of double take when I was first reading up on this.
Yeah, he was an English playwright, but his name was Barry, and he had a little accent over the U, so Barry Lyndon. And he wrote this play, The Man in Half Moon Street, first stage in 1939. And Paramount had bought the rights, and they made a film version of it in 1944 with Nils Ather in the leading role. And this was like obvious territory for Hammer. They'd been remaking other studios' films, or not so much remaking as readapting. Reimagining, yeah, films that I can't for the life of me see how the 1958 Dracula is a remake of the 1931 Dracula.
Exactly.
They're just adaptations of the same thing. They're not. There's no way on God's earth you could call it a remake.
No.
But this is what they were going to do. They were going to sort of have a look at this and sort of see if they could make something of it. Now, there had been another version of it in between, and this will come back to us in a few minutes' time. There was a British television version, which had been screened as part of the Hour of Mystery anthology series just a year or two earlier. And we're going to come back to that because there's actually some lovely little coincidences going on with that production and this one.
I love those. I love lovely little coincidences.
Oh, there's some good ones here. You're going to love this. It's So Hammer thought, OK, if we're going to get into bed with Paramount, we might as well do The Man in Half Moon Street. Mm-hmm. They got Jimmy Sangster, who else, to come up with the script. Mm-hmm. He started writing it as The Man in the Rue Noire.
OK.
The Man in Black Street or Dark Street. And so he came up with the script. They got Terence Fisher back. They got Christopher Lee back. Mm-hmm. They sort of got Peter Cushing back. We'll talk about that in a moment, but they sort of got him back, but they didn't. So they were trying to reassemble the old team and, to do this version of it. And incidentally, while it was in production, they realised that it was now 10 years since the relaunch of Hammer. So it's the first film of the relaunch, I should say. James Carreras had relaunched it in 1946. They got their first film, Dr. Morell, The Case of the Missing Heiress, out in 1948. When they went into production, this was 1958, so it was 10 years on. So they threw a little party at the Hind's Head pub in Bray. Which I think is rather nice, isn't it?
Is this another stop on our little field trip tour?
Absolutely. Come this spring, you'll all be signing up for this. Trust me. That's assuming the Hind's Head pub is there. Most pubs seem to have gone nowadays.
Well, that's true, sadly.
We can go and look at the, I don't know, the pound shop or something that now exists on the site,
The Paddy Power.
That's right, yeah.
So, tell me about the party, Kev.
So, about the party, well, everybody was invited. Mm-hmm. They all went out. It was quite a popular haunt, this pub, for lunchtime booze-ups.
Okay.
So they'd called lunch break. People who were hungry went down to the cafeteria, which I can't imagine was very big at Bray Studios, because Bray Studios wasn't enormous.
Yeah.
But a lot of the crew in particular, the gaffers, the lighting people, the camera operators and all the rest of it, proper working class guys, go down the pub. Mm-hmm. So they were down the pub having a liquid lunch, basically. So I'd love to have been around in the afternoons.
Yeah.
If that's what they were doing. What the hell was going on?
We've spoken so many times about all the pub scenes in Hammer horror films, and in fact there's one coming up in this one as well. It's a bit sort of art imitating life imitating art, isn't it?
It was just British culture at the time.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone just yesterday, someone much younger, a relative who's much younger, and saying that their generation don't go to the pub like we used to. Which is why pubs are dying out. Because, younger people are sort of, like she said, where you can go to the supermarket and get a 10-pack of cider for the price of, a round. Why would you go to the pub? Sorry, pubs. I do like pubs, but they're sort of, they're a dying thing, I reckon. So all the ones we're seeing in the Hammer films, we look at them now and we think, wouldn't it have been great to go to that pub?
Half pint of mild and a packet of cheese and onion.
While Jack Asher and his team were sat in the corner working out the afternoon shots. Fantastic. Heaven on earth.
So let's talk about the plot. Mm-hmm. We've got Paris, 1890. Dr. Georges Bonnet plans to live forever through periodic gland transplants from younger, healthier human victims. Bonnet looks about 40. He's really 104 years old. But people are starting to get suspicious, and he may not make 200.
Very good.
As always, mercilessly lifted from Letterboxd. But again, it does the job. We know what's going on.
We know exactly what's happening. Yeah, and it's curious that they sort of point out that it's Paris, because clearly it is Paris. But at one point, Professor Weiss says to Bonnet, when I first came to London.
Oh.
Which kind of implies to me that he thinks he's in London.
Well,
I know he's an old duffer
exactly.
at this point, but, well, he's supposed to be 80-something, isn't he? But, yeah. But given that we very rarely go outside in this film,
I know
we don't get any excuses for the stereotypical shots of the Arc de Triomphe and the Eiffel Tower. So it could be set anywhere, frankly.
It could be.
They mentioned the Sûreté at one point, so we do know it's set in Paris, but that's about it.
Yeah,
really.
And they've all got sort of. Like Dr. Georges Bonnet.
That's right,
Dr. Pierre, Janine.
Yeah, exactly.
Margot.
Yeah.
You mentioned there about not getting a lot of stuff outside, but the film opens with a scene that really sort of, to me, smacked of Jack the Ripper.
Oh, doesn't it just? Yes.
And I had to have a little double check about Jack the Ripper, but I think that was kind of like late 1880s.
That's right.
And obviously this is set in 1890, and it just feels very kind of referential to that kind of vibe. You've basically got a man walking through these very sort of foggy, dark streets, down little dark alleyways.
Yep.
He's being stalked by another sort of larger man in a tall hat, and then gets it looks like he's strangled, but then we later find out that actually he was still alive when he's operated on.
Yes.
And we get this shot of the sort of medical implements that are used to operate on him, like literally sort of down this damp, dark alleyway in the middle of Paris. So I couldn't help seeing maybe some sort of parallels between what Hammer are trying to do with the opening of this scene and obviously that very real case of Jack the Ripper.
Of course. And if you want to play these kind of games, of course, you could imagine it in your, I believe they refer to them as your head canon. If you actually had a head canon, you could possibly convince yourself that Bonnet was Jack the Ripper, who fled London when it all got a bit too hot and went to Paris instead.
Ooh, I love that.
Could be. I'm not saying it is,
that.
But if you want to believe that, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's great. It is a terrific opening sequence, I have to say. It's really good. And how refreshing is it that the victim is male?
Yeah, really refreshing.
So you've got a Jack the Ripper style killing. There is a woman who approaches him, who I think is being sort of codified as a prostitute. Mm-hmm. You know, she comes up to go, hello, darling, all that sort of stuff. And I think we're meant to believe she's a prostitute. And there is that split second, like, is he going to kill her now? And he just wanders off.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's a clever bit of writing, that bit. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it sort of plays with your expectations.
It does, yeah.
Although I must say the sex workers in this film don't all get off quite as lightly.
They don't, no.
Speaking of that pub scene, as we were, we'll come on to that later.
We will, definitely.
The interiors, though, are gorgeous. And I really wanted to speak to you about this, Kev, to ask if, because obviously we've discussed about Bray Studios basically being set up kind of in what was an old stately home.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did really enjoy about The Man Who Could Cheat Death is how beautiful and kind of tactile those interiors are in Dr. Bonnet's house. It feels like a real house to me. The action sort of goes from room to room. You're almost following him down corridors and into other like fully decked out, beautiful sort of set designed rooms.
Sure.
So like, do you know, was that film just kind of in Bray, or was it sets?
Yes. It was filmed in Bray with sets by Bernard Robinson, of course, the great Bernard Robinson.
Yeah.
We know it was filmed in Bray, and we know that Bernard Robinson was involved because if you look carefully, you can spot some recycling.
Okay.
If you look at the scene where Hazel Court goes down into the basement, that is actually the same set, just big amount of a large amount, I should say, of redressing going on, but it's the same set as where Dracula's tomb was.
Right.
So it's, that door with
where he does his histrionic re-entry at the beginning.
Right. Yeah, he's like, I shall storm off, but no, I need to make a dramatic entrance.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's the same set. I think there are a couple of other bits and pieces. There are some props left over from How Do the Baskervilles that you can see in there. So yes, of course, this happens a lot. So we'll see a lot more of it as we go along. Some of these sets will become very old friends. But while you're watching the film, you don't tend to think that.
No.
Because it does, as you say, it feels like a proper house. It feels
lived in.
It feels lived in. It feels like there's real depth to it.
Yeah.
It's like everything connects. There's a geography to it, which you don't always get in sets. There are quite. I mean, people talk a lot, don't they, about The Shining. a terrific film, one of my favourites, but the geography of the inside of the hotel makes no sense whatsoever.
That's right.
You know, they go out and turn a corner and they're back where they were or something. You know, it's mad. A lot of films, they do that and we just don't notice it. We only notice it on our sort of 70th or 80th rewatch, as in the case of The Shining. This one does feel like it's actually been thought through.
Yeah, it does.
Bernard Robinson sat down with a bit of paper and mapped it out and thought, this is how they all connect.
And I thought, I noticeably so, you know, like I think even if you're shooting on sets and just the way a film is edited, it will just feel like, okay, right, well, we've moved from the basement set to the drawing room set to, you know, whereas, as I say, and as you say, it does have this real kind of internal logic, this lovely geography where you're actually like following people kind of through the house. And I really liked that. I
think this is all part of the very mundane skill of being a filmmaker, being a director, an art director, a cinematographer. And I'm not sort of saying mundane disparagingly. It's the fact that it's not just a case of pointing a camera at someone and telling an actor how to act.
No.
You have to understand the continuity. If they leave through door A, they've got to come through door A into the next set. And God knows we've seen plenty of films where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, the continuity errors are rife. Hammer were really good at that.
Yeah.
Really good at getting that internal geography sorted out.
But, you know, that's enough of the positives. Kevin, what do you think of
Oh, dear.
The Man Who Could Cheat
How long
Death?
have we got? Fans, now is the time to go make a cup of tea. Weirdly, you know, I don't even remember the first time I saw it, which I think speaks volumes, because I do remember a lot of the first times with these films.
Yeah.
This one...
We've talked about a lot of them.
This one... It's just been there.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of it. It never really escapes its roots as a stage play for me. There's an awful lot of people sitting around talking and talking and bloody talking, which I know is a fine thing for a podcast host to say, but in a film, I expect a bit more than that. And I think the problem is, for me, that it comes where it does in Hammer's history, that we've had this incredible run of films. We started way back with the Quatermass Experiment, we've come up to date with The Mummy, and then suddenly there's this. All the other films had some pizzazz to them, some action. You know, there's people rushing about everywhere, sort of tearing down curtains and, you know, all that sort of thing. This one, it feels very lethargic.
It does.
Feels like it's lacking some energy somehow. And, you know, you've got these great actors who are kind of lumbered with not very interesting characters, saying not very interesting things. And I watched it again just last night, the night before we recorded this. And I have to confess, I kind of wandered off a little bit.
Oh, no.
That happens in no other Hammer film, even the really bad ones that we're going to get to. I still stick with them because even the really bad ones, I just so bloody loathe them that I have to sit and torture myself with them. But
I love a good hate watch.
Oh, hate watch. Oh, I keep telling you lot this. Brace yourself for 1970. It's a hate watch bonanza. But it's, yeah, I mean, all the films we've done so far, I've been so riveted by what I'm watching that I've had to watch them twice because I forget to take notes. This one, I'm just like, oh, dear, okay, yeah, I just check my emails. And I'm like, oh, no, this is not Hammer to me.
Yeah.
Really not Hammer to me. This is one where I kind of watch the clock a little bit.
Yeah.
I just find it a bit dull. It's not a terrible film.
No.
It's too beautifully made for that.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, Hammer are going to do a lot worse. But as we speak here, right now, at the end of November 2025, when we're recording this, it's the worst one we've seen so far.
And can you put your finger on why, Kev? Is it that that kind of lack of distinction between, you know, the staginess of it and actually then adapting it for the screen? Or is it just that it's too wordy?
Yeah.
Is there stuff beyond that doesn't work for you?
When I go and see a stage play, I kind of expect it to be all set in limited locations and with a lot of talk, because that's what stage plays are. And you go and see a stage play and you see incredible actors bringing that to life. Yeah. When you're on a film set where things are shot out of sequence over the period of, you know, weeks, months sometimes, I think it loses that connective energy. And everything just feels a little bit lackluster in this. There's no standout scene really, apart from the opening. For you know, when we always do the winding up at the end of the key scenes.
Favourite
in the film.
bits, yeah.
All the films so far, I could have mentioned dozens of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of anything.
Honestly, Kev,
I've got a couple of bits that I can say, but that's about it.
Same. And when I always put our talking points together a couple of days before we record.
Yeah.
We both take a look at them. And usually when I get to the bit quite near the end where it says any favourite bits, I then put a little sort of bullet point underneath where I will list my favourite bits.
Yes, I noticed this.
And I didn't do it for this one because I couldn't think of anything.
And it's one of those films, it has its fans. We're going to find this as we go through this epic journey, that every film, even the ones I hate, have got their fans.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's cool. I jealous of the fact that people do get something more from this film. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying, honestly, guys, I'm not saying that this is an absolute stinker. I'm just saying that when you compare it to Dracula, Curse of Frankenstein, Revenge of Frankenstein, any of those films, this doesn't stack up.
Yeah.
Try watching this on a double bill with any of the previous Gothics. You're going to be sitting there thinking, oh,
I'd rather have rewatched Revenge of Frankenstein or,
Exactly. Exactly right, yeah. And that's really what it is for me. And I do find it a bit claustrophobic, the fact that we very rarely go outside.
Yeah. I understand that, definitely.
Those sets are gorgeous. They're beautifully designed and constructed, but you know, we had outdoor scenes in Dracula and the Frankenstein films and the Mummy. Even if they were indoor outdoor scenes, they were still trying them. And it just feels like I'm in a theatre watching a stage play. That's the problem I have with it. And there's nothing wrong with sitting in a theatre watching stage plays, but when I go to a cinema, that's not what I want.
You want a different experience. I mean, I
want a different experience.
I largely agree. I think I am slightly more positive on this film than you are.
Sure. Sure.
I got to the end of it and I was like, I think I said out loud, well, that was naff.
Right, yeah.
But I have to say, when I was then sort of going through the notes that I'd made, putting the talking points together, for every sort of aspect of the film that we tend to talk about, so whether that is the look of it, the costuming, the performances, elements of the screenplay, the horror itself.
Yeah.
For all of those aspects, I could pull out one positive thing to say. So it's not, or more than one, at least one positive thing. And so it's not that I think it's a bad film at all. And I think it's got a lot going for it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's something about it that doesn't quite feel like it lives up to a sum of its parts. It's got all these good things, but as a whole experience, as a whole film, I got to the end and I was just a bit like,
I know. I think one of the ways I could judge this myself is, with all the other films we've done, I could quite happily go back and watch them again a week later.
Yeah.
And indeed with the Quatermass films we did, because we did that screening of them.
We did, we absolutely
And they were as brilliant at that screening as they were, like a week earlier when I'd watched them at home. Would I go back to this one voluntarily? Is this the last time I ever see The Man Who Could Cheat Death? Quite possibly.
Maybe.
Unless someone wants me to do a commentary on it, but I'm pretty sure after this episode they're not going to want that, are they, really? But,
they might ask someone else.
So let's ask someone who does like it. Yeah. And it's not that I don't like it, it's not that I hate it. I just find disappointing. That's the word for it.
I think that's fair.
It's disappointing. I expect more from Hammer at this point.
One of the things that I did find quite compelling about it, and I couldn't agree more about, it's just a lot of people stood around in rooms having a chat.
Yeah.
But there is one standout scene of a couple of people stood about in a room having a chat.
Yes.
And that is
I know what you're going to say.
Key moment, I suppose, that key discussion between Bonnet and Professor Weiss. And we'll come on to talk a bit more about, the people who play these characters and stuff. But I just want to sort of talk about this thematically before we do that, because there's a lot of stuff that gets picked up from stories like Frankenstein, playing God, the sort of solitude of eternal life.
That's right.
And then in this film, that is sort of built out in a slightly different way, because you're looking at this difference between sort of old age, getting older, perpetual health. And so there is this, I thought, really lovely scene actually between the two doctors, who we find out they're sort of the same age. So Bonnet and Weiss have been working together for years and years. But Bonnet looks much younger. Weiss is an old man. Bonnet looks like he's in his 40s. And
they represent this, don't they, with a really badly done photograph.
Terrible.
Of Anton Diffring as he was then, and sort of Andre Marley as he was as a young man. They just appear to have pasted one photograph on top of the other. It's really quite bad.
It's like the sort of thing that it looks like when I try to do Photoshop. Like, it's so bad.
It is.
But they do have this really interesting kind of and quite compelling and emotional exchange where they are talking about the experience of life that they share, even though Bonnet looks much younger. And Weiss is almost kind of saying to him, I have this outlook on things. I think that it's time that we stop this experiment of prolonging your life continually. I think it's time that it comes to an end. From my experience in life at my advanced years. And Bonnet sort of comes back to him and he's like, well, don't forget, I have actually more experience in life. Just because I look like a young man, we're both sort of approaching this almost philosophical idea from a similar place in terms of life experience. And there's a lot about Bonnet kind of starting to really like break down emotionally. He has to have this operation every 10 years to maintain his youth and his health. And so every 10 years he has to break all ties, up sticks, leave for somewhere else, start again. He's alone, he's lonely.
Yeah.
And for me, all of that stuff actually really landed. And I thought, I'm not completely convinced in general by Anton Diffring's performance as Bonnet.
I think you're being very generous there, but carry on.
Okay, good. But I do think that Arnold Marley is so
terrific,
superb as Ludwig Weiss. He is so good. And obviously we've seen him previously in The Abominable Snowman when he played the kind of head of the monastery.
That's right, the Lama.
The Lama. And I think he's great here. And if there is a scene in which Diffring does perform slightly better than the rest of the movie, I think it's here.
This is a highlight, this scene. I have to agree with you. Absolutely. I think it's really well done. It's like something, just for a moment, somebody threw a switch.
Yeah.
We were starting to see what the film should have been.
It suddenly feels dynamic, even though it
does.
is just two men in a room.
Yeah.
There's something that's lifted it.
It's the riveting sort of performances. Even Anton Diffring, who I'm very sceptical about in this film, we'll talk about him later, but I think he's really good in this and he works really well. They're both German actors, so maybe that was something they connected in a way, perhaps. But there is a real sort of genuine feeling that these people are friends of old standing, very old
That's
standing,
right.
a long time. And yes, the loneliness thing is interesting because Christopher Lee talked several times about the loneliness of evil when it came to Dracula, which is not something I think we particularly get a sense of in the Hammer films. I never really get the impression that the Hammer Dracula is terribly lonely.
No.
He lives alone, but I think he's quite happy to live alone and just prey on whoever is passing. But this, I think, it does tackle loneliness head on.
Yeah, it really does.
Specifically, the loneliness of age. Now, of course, I am well suited to speak of this, being a knackered old man myself. But you can stop me at any point when I say things like that, You can say, no.
Stop it, Kevin.
No.
Stop talking about yourself in such ways.
Becky, if I've got to beg for it, it's not bloody worth it. Right, so...
Oh, sorry. I'll do better next time. I'm sorry.
Be more on the ball next time. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
But, I am getting older. I'm not as old as Weiss, thank God. But, I am getting on in years. Weiss is... I could sort of see a little bit of myself in Weiss, strangely. He's this sort of slightly tragic figure, a bit worn out by life, a bit broken down. He's just waiting for death. I'm not that far gone yet, I have to say.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. No, absolutely. I've got this bloody series to finish first. I'm worried about death this time next year. But old age is a really weird thing because it's something that no one ever prepares us for. No one ever talks about old age. My parents never told me what it was going to be like to be old because they were still young. By the time I'm now old, they're gone.
Sure. Yeah, that
so
makes
they're
sense.
not there to sort of say to me, yeah, this is what's going to happen, Kev. You'll get out of bed in the morning and discover a new part of your body and you'll know it's there because it's hurting. And that's what comes with age. It really does. And, you reach an age, and this is why I kind of feel a connection with Vice, I think, that you reach an age where it's happened to me already. Friends have started to die, and you suddenly realise that actually your social group is becoming smaller and smaller. And my world is getting smaller and smaller. And that just comes with age. I'm not sort of, oh, poor me. That's just what happens when you get old. And it's just something we never think about when we're growing up, because why would we? We're living life.
Absolutely, exactly.
That's the point, isn't it? And I've been rewatching Red Dwarf recently.
Oh my God, Kev! Right, there you go. There's another podcast for us to do
There's another
next.
podcast, A Journey Through Red Dwarf. And there's
I love Red Dwarf.
Oh, glorious. But there's a terrific line from Lister where he says, you're born and you die, and the bit in between is called life, and that's for living. And that's what people do, I think. I think we try to sort of not think about old age and becoming decrepit and falling apart and, decaying and then eventually exiting. I think we don't think about that because we just get on with life, don't we? Just occasionally, as you get older, you do get a twinge and you think, oh, I speak at the moment to someone with an awful bad back. I was doing something really stupid the other day. I was trying to tidy up.
Well, there's your first mistake.
There's my first mistake. I bent down to pick up a box of books and my back went.
Oh, no.
Even 10 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. 10 years ago, they tucked a couple of boxes, one under each arm, and off I got. Now, I look at a box and I start getting a twinge, and this happens. This comes to us. And I think this film, more than any other Hammer film, tackles that rather well.
Yeah, it reckons with it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really interesting what you said there, Kev, about this idea of losing the people around you as we all age.
Yeah.
And actually with Vice choosing to say to his old friend, look, I think actually this is over now.
That's right.
I think it's time that we don't do any more operations.
Sure.
I think it's, that has so much pathos to it, because
it does.
he's literally saying that to one of his old friends and saying, like, I'm kind of like ready to let you go, or to let circumstances take the course that you will
indeed
go.
Yeah.
And I think that's got quite a lot of weight behind it, actually, and it's really lovely. It's really beautifully delivered.
And I think that's because Vice has reached that stage in life where he's ready to go.
Yeah,
he's
just had a stroke.
He's had a stroke.
This is part of the kind of plot.
Indeed.
One of the sort of conceits around the plot is that he has arrived in Paris. He's supposed to be doing the most recent surgery on his old friends to make sure that he can live healthily another 10 years. But he arrives and he's very late.
Yep.
And he's had a stroke, and so he's lost the use of one of his hands. And so this is what sort of kicks into motion that they need to bring other people into this world that they've created, where Bonnet is having these glands replaced, and this is how he's kind of got this perpetual health and this everlasting life. And so you're right, he's definitely got that air of somebody who's like, okay, well, if I only have a little bit of time left, I'm not sure that I want to spend it, in this world of horror and sci-fi.
I mean, Paris, I want to go out and live the high life.
Exactly.
In my final years. I don't want to be in a dingy basement laboratory sort of doing unethical, horrific things. Who would? So, I have a lot of sympathy for Vice.
Let the poor man retire, come on.
Exactly. And I think, I've heard this before. One of the reasons how I know I'm not desperately old yet is I've heard several times old people say, well, I'm ready now. I'm ready. It's coming and I'm ready. I'm not ready yet. I'm going out kicking and screaming.
Good.
There you go, another Listerism. I'm going out the way I came in, kicking and screaming. But I haven't got the energy to kick and scream, but I'm not giving up. But that happens with older people. I think they reach that point that Vice has reached, where they think it's been okay. I've had a good life. I've done the things I've wanted to do. And
actually, if you do last longer, then you get this issue that Bonnet has got, which is he has to keep giving people up. He has to keep giving up his past life.
That's right.
There's a beautiful line where Vice says, no man should be alone all his life, but if you continue, it must be alone.
Right.
And I thought that just really underlined everything that he's kind of arguing in this situation, which is, it's horrible that if you continue living that you'll be alone, but if you continue, it's got to be that way. And obviously Bonnet is, again, trying to kind of change things because he wants to bring the woman that he's in love with, Janine, played by the stunning Hazel Court. He wants to kind of bring her along with him from now on.
And we see that as a theme in some vampire films, don't we?
Yep.
The vampire wants to vampirize the woman he loves.
Yep.
So that they both be immortal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I put in mind, and there are several people out there who contacted me to say they look forward to these moments. So here we go. You know who you are. The moment when I crowbar Doctor Who into a discussion. Yay! Puts me in mind
Doctor Who bingo!
Doctor Who bingo! We win! Excellent. But it puts me in mind of the Doctor, who said several times that, he's, to all intents and purposes, an immortal who has to keep saying goodbye to his mortal friends. That's the tragedy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of being a Time Lord.
Yeah.
And I think
all of the best. I haven't seen a huge amount of Doctor Who, but the bits that really stick in my mind are when a particular iteration of a Doctor will come to the end, and when have that really sort of amazing relationship with one of their companions, and then they have to sort of say goodbye. I mean, it's always just absolutely heartbreaking.
Do you know what? I'm a 63-year-old man. I cry every time a companion leaves. I really do. I'm in floods of tears. Even the ones I'm not particularly fond of, I'm still like, oh, the poor Doctor. But I think Bonnet will end up like that. Mm-hmm. He will end up as this immortal being who will just lose everything, lose everybody. I think, we'd had that fantasy, don't we? What would it be like if we could live for 1,000 years? All the things we could see.
Yeah.
I've lost enough people in my life. I don't want to lose the people I've already got.
Right.
I don't want to lose any more. I want to go first now. And the younger people can mourn me, so be selfish about it. But tune in next week, everybody, for more of Kev's cheery words of optimism and uplifting philosophy.
God, Kevin!
We've got very dark, haven't we?
My heart, it breaks. All right. Let's talk about Anton Diffring then as our leading man, as Dr. Georges Bonnet.
Indeed.
You teased earlier that the production almost had Peter Cushing. So let's talk about that.
Well, Peter Cushing was indeed cast. 6 days before production was due to start, he decided he didn't want to go through with it. Now, as I understand it, Hammer was sort of, with their regular people, they didn't really do contracts as such. It was kind of gentlemen's agreements. And so Hammer didn't have a leg to stand on because Cushing hadn't signed anything to say he would do it. He cited being exhausted. They'd done Hound of the Baskervilles. There's a lot of dashing about in that. He'd been in Europe shooting John Farrow's epic film, John Paul Jones, and he'd caught dysentery for a week, which had left him very weak. And I can understand, he probably looked at it and thought, I've signed up for this, but they're going to put me under a pile of makeup at the end. I'm really not feeling this at the moment.
Well, and I guess he'd also done The Mummy, had he? Had he done both? How did
The Mummy comes next. Weirdly, we're doing them in release order.
Right.
And The Man Who Could Cheat Death, it took a long time to release in this country. Okay. So The Mummy comes out first, but The Mummy comes out...
All right, well, what's he moaning about then?
Afterwards. So what's he moaning about, Pete? Come on, pull yourself together. Somebody should have gone up and sort of given him the Cushing finger in his face, shouldn't they? Come on, Pete. Sort yourself out. But no, he didn't. He just didn't want to do it. He left, basically. Managing director
6 days is not giving him a lot of time. I said 6 days isn't giving them a lot of time.
Well, we'll come to that in a second, because actually, Anton Diffring, he was the best man for the job. We'll come to that in a moment.
Okay.
Managing director James Carreras was furious, as you could imagine. And in fact, he allegedly wrote a letter to Cushing's solicitor saying that he would sue him if he ever reneged on a deal like this again.
Oh, my God.
And Paramount was so pissed off because they'd been told they were getting a Christopher Lee Peter Cushing film, and suddenly half of them's gone. And they were so annoyed that, so the story goes, that they relegated the film in America to the bottom end of a double bill with The Jayhawkers, a Western, directed by Melvin Frank, because they just weren't happy that this was the film that they'd put money into, basically.
Yeah.
So they were left, with 6 days. 6 days to find something. Now, they looked around and two things occurred to them. One, they'd just previously done a television pilot called Tales of Frankenstein. And it didn't sell at the time. It was out of sight for many, many years. You can find it now as an extra on various Frankenstein discs, DVDs and Blu-rays. And the part of Frankenstein in that is played by Anton Diffring.
Okay.
Stepping into Cushing's shoes yet again, or for the first time, I should say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of at the back of their minds. The other thing that was at the back of their minds, remember I said earlier there was a TV version of this particular story for House of Mystery. Well, who do you think plays the leading character, Dr. Julian Carell, in that? Anton Diffring.
Yeah.
So he's already familiar with at least the mechanics of the story, if not the details of the script. So, in he comes to take over from Cushing with some experience of the story and was known to Hammer because Tales of Frankenstein.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he did one. Again, we've said this so many times, haven't we? One of those amazing little strokes of luck for Hammer. That they just happened to have this guy around working for them who had experience with the story just when they needed him.
I mean, stroke of luck in this case might be a bit of a
Stroke of luck. Yeah, okay. You got me. Yeah, that's pushing it a little bit, isn't it? It's Anton Diffring is a striking-looking actor, isn't he? I mean, absolutely stunning-looking actor. And when he was playing, like in his B-movies, he was playing villains. He played lots of Nazis in war films. And he was all doing really good villain roles. But in here, I think he's a little bit too melodramatic, dare we say, over the top.
Melodramatic and over the top, Kev.
Don't you think so? I think
He keeps doing that thing. It drove me mad, where he'd start saying something to the person that he's having a conversation with in a room, and then he would dramatically turn away from them and continue saying his piece into the middle distance.
That's right,
because it's so intense that he couldn't possibly look them in the eye while he's talking.
Yeah, it's all a bit too much for me. I think because we're used to seeing these terrific actors sort of reining back the excesses that could come with this kind of film. These films could have been so melodramatic. But Cushing and Lee, they all knew not to do that. Rein it in, contain it. And poor old Anton, I think he just thought, I'm doing a horror film, let's go for it. It's like, no, Anton, please. And I can't work out, did Fisher want him to do that? Or did sort of Fisher say to him, can we rein it in a bit, old chap? And Diffring just said, no, this is what I do, and carried on anyway. I don't know the answer to that one.
Or maybe he did rein it in. You don't want to know what the other takes look like.
Wonder what the outtakes were like. They're probably long been destroyed, I would imagine, for good reason. But it's a shame, because I do like Anton Diffring in lots of things I've seen him in, and he's a very striking presence. I just think he's not right for this part. And having lost Cushing, surely Christopher Lee would have been a better bet.
Well, I agree with that. I think that you could have almost switched these two roles. So you had Anton Diffring playing Dr. Pierre Girard, and Christopher Lee playing Dr. Georges Bonnet, because I think that would have made more sense. But I mean, there's obviously a reason that didn't happen, and it's a fool's errand to sort of wonder about what would be.
What if?
Exactly, but certainly in this, I did find Anton Diffring slightly difficult to watch.
Just a bit, and you're not alone in saying that. I've actually sort of scoped out a few people's thinking on this film, and this is one of the main criticisms: is that Diffring is a fine actor in other parts. He's just a little bit too over the top in places here. And yes, he can rein it in. That scene with Vice we were talking about.
Yeah.
Where he plays that beautifully.
He does play that beautifully.
He does. But he's just a bit sort of... He's a bit in your face. He's a bit sort of, I've seen one mad scientist film. This is what they're all like. I shall play it like this. And it's like, no, Anton.
It's all a bit dynasty for my liking. You know?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
All right, but saying that, elsewhere in the cast, we do have some absolute favourites and familiar faces.
Yes, don't we just?
I would love to talk about Hazel Court, who, once again, I think is so good in this as Janine. I think her performance is really beautiful, actually. What do you think?
Lovely. I think we should probably just throw our notes away and spend the rest of whatever time we've got in this podcast talking about Hazel Court.
Yeah.
Because this is her last Hammer film before she goes off to do those films for Roger Corman. the Poe films.
Okay.
So this is the last time we get a chance to talk about her. So, yeah, she's amazing. I love her in this.
Yeah.
I know some people have used some not very correct wording to describe her. She's a bit of a tease. And she's sort of... But then, she's a turn-of-the-century Parisian woman. She's not going to be handing out on a plate, She's going to be, like... a little bit reserved, a little bit holding it back.
Do people mean in terms of the way that she handles her relationship with Pierre?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That she's kind of teasing him a bit, like sort of offering him... And I can't see it myself. I can't see that. I can only see that she's just this very vivacious young woman, sort of unusually vivacious, perhaps, for 1890 Paris even. And she's just... I think she's a lovely character. I do like her a great deal in this. I wonder if anybody else playing her would have played it differently. If it existed, we would have had a very interesting comparison with that TV version. Sadly, it's lost. The same part in that was played by Melissa Stribling, who we saw in Dracula.
Yes, we did.
The tiniest of worlds, isn't it? The Hammerverse is tiny.
Do you know what? I could see that, though.
Oh, yes, I could see her carrying that off really well.
Very much so.
Yeah, but could she have done it quite as well as Hazel Court? Hazel Court was magnificent.
I think she's magnificent in it. And just to that point about, the relationship with Pierre and whether she's sort of leading him on, I think it's difficult because in these days when this was set, and almost to a point when the film was made, male-female platonic relationships weren't really a thing.
That's right.
She's bound to know that Pierre is in love with her. She's not stupid. But I think if that was a relationship, if this story was brought up to date and filmed, in the 2020s, I don't think anybody would raise an eyebrow at that relationship. But because of the context, she's almost approaching it in quite a modern way, in that, she's quite happy hanging out with this bloke and, going out to dinner with him and bringing him to parties and going to the theatre. And other people sort of may raise an eyebrow if she hasn't sort of, I don't know, dedicated herself to him romantically. But I think actually, if you look at it now, that's a pretty normal, healthy male-female friendship.
It is. I mean, you say when it was, made in the 1950s, even as late as the 1970s, 1980s, I remember being at school in the 70s and much preferring the company of girls. And I had this weird sort of disconnect from all the sort of macho the macho blokes who were all the age of 13, 14. But, they sort of had this sort of two diametrically opposed ideas about me. I was either gay or I was shagging them all. It's like, it's neither. They're fun. They're more interesting than you are. You just want to talk about bloody football all the time. They're much more interesting. Nowadays, that kind of relationship is, as you say, it's perfectly normal and natural, exactly as it should be. We've grown up a little bit since then. But yeah, in the 1950s, it probably was seen as a little bit suspect. But I think she's got a very playful relationship with Bonnie, which she sees as playful. He doesn't, but he's a bloke, so he's an idiot. He's not going to see it as playful, is he? But I think she's just sort of a very vivacious young woman, sort of living life, as we said earlier, just living life and enjoying his company, but not necessarily going to take it too much further.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was ever on the cards for them, really.
Well, I think that's what I think. I don't actually get the impression that she's kind of dangling a carrot in front of him.
No.
So,
he's lusting after her, but she's kind of, we're mates, we're okay. We're all right. I like you a lot. I enjoy your company.
That's how I saw it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. But she's great in it. And
she's amazing.
She got a little bit of extra money for this film. I've seen it reported as being a whopping £2,000. I've also seen it being reported as £200. So take whichever you want. But the extra money was for the briefest of brief shots to go into what became the European cut of the film.
Okay.
When she takes her top off during the modelling scene, completely topless. Now, I think this is a brilliant moment to discuss the vast differences in the 1950s between Britain and Europe. Because in Britain, the censors looked at that, and honest to God, you can see it. If you go and buy the Severin Blu-ray, they've got this version on there. They've recovered it and they've restored it. And you can see it lasts for a couple of seconds. And within 10 years, you were seeing far more explicit stuff on page 3 of The Sun, for God's sake.
Right.
You know, it was like, but, you know, the British censor, no. You can have all these. Well, they balked at some of the horror as well. But they said you can't have topless women in a British film. Not on. So they cut it out of the British version. The version that went to Europe retains that scene, and the Europeans just went, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a woman with no top on. Okay, cool. And just carry on. And that was the difference, I think, between Britain and Europe back then, and possibly even so today, that, you know, they were much more relaxed about this stuff, and we were very stuffy and uptight about it. But it was a bit of a holy grail, that scene, for obvious reasons. And there was a still photograph published of it, I think, in Little Shop of Horror magazine, which if you don't read that, it's coming to an end soon, but you get all the back issues, the definitive guide to Hammer horror.
Oh.
Extraordinary. Go to Hemlock Books. They've got all the digital reprints and everything. They're brilliant. Everything you need to know. Everything I've stolen. Everything I've researched, rather. It's largely from the brilliant Little Shop of Horrors. They publish a still image from it, a rather grainy still image. We can now see it in all its glory. And you know, it is slightly disappointing. I think, you know, you grow up with it thinking, hardcore super porn. You know, and it's just Hazel Court sitting on a chair, you know, exposing her breasts. And it's like, is that it? Is that what getting you excited, boys? You know, it's like, okay.
Well, is that what's getting you excited? But also, is that what's getting you so upset?
Upset. I know if you were 12 years old, I could probably understand why people were getting a bit about that. But it adds nothing to the story at all. It was just done because they wanted something a bit more risque. They were constantly nudging away at the censors in this country. Yeah. How far can we push them? I know. Let's get some breasts in there and let's see if they'll bite. I go, no, that's coming out. Okay, we'll send it to Europe. And
not yet, at least.
Not yet. Oh my God, they're going to go mental. There's going to be boobs everywhere at some point. You know, I think it was in the contracts of a lot of actresses in the late 60s, early 70s that you turn up without any costume because you don't need one. You know, let's fire all the wardrobe people because you're not going to be wearing very much anyway. But yeah, it is quite startling, the change that overcomes them. But that's for another episode. But yeah, so she's very game in this. She actually did it. I think possibly on the understanding that this was not going to get past the censor. Sure. So they'd be able to see it in France and Germany and Italy, but nobody at home would see it. And remember, we didn't travel.
Sure.
In the late 1950s. So no one would have seen this film. We didn't know that it was actually... It had happened, I think, until the 1970s. So she was probably reassured, don't worry, no one's going to see this at home. You're going to be fine. Of course, now it's out on glorious restored Blu-ray, but she's not around to be embarrassed about it anymore, sadly. So.
Well, I mean, that all brings me on to talk about the sculpture. So part of this... narrative is that, and I don't really understand how this is actually to do with what's happening in the rest of the story, but
sure,
as well as being a doctor, Georges is also a sculptor, and actually we first meet him at this reception that he has thrown for all the people in Paris, you know, all the people sort of in his little circle. They all come round to his studio in his house. He is unveiling his new sculpture of his new model, having left poor Janine, played by Hazel Court, in Italy, I think, where they've met. And he's come to Paris and he's met a new lady, a new model, and he's now sculpting her. And so this is the big unveiling. Janine arrives on the arm of Pierre Gerard, played by Christopher Lee, and she is mortified to see that he has moved on to a new model, and to hear that when she modelled for him in Italy, he never actually completed the sculpture.
Right.
So then you find out, and this is how the sort of romance reignites between them, that actually he was fibbing, and he has done the sculpture, and it's very beautiful, right? So she is over the moon about this.
Of course.
And I just want to talk about the sculpture itself, because it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it really shows, and I don't know if it was modelled specifically on Hazel Court's figure, but it really shows just a very natural, beautiful woman's figure. Very sort of curvaceous.
Yes,
she's got all her lumps and bumps in the right place.
Places.
You know,
yeah, exactly.
It's like she's not this. I don't know.
She's no stick
idealised.
Yeah,
she's no stick. She's no sort of idealised sort of waifish little thing. She's a very beautiful, voluptuous woman.
Yes,
and there's a really striking shot later when she goes down to the basement, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And Hazel Court is stood there in her beautiful costuming, as they always put her in these films. She's got this very, very corseted figure. So she's all sort of sucked in round the waist. She looks teeny weeny. And then she stood directly next to the sculpture where she is obviously nude and very voluptuous in figure. And I just thought that was really lovely. And I really enjoyed seeing it.
That's a nice shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is actually a behind-the-scenes shot of a sculptor whose name I've not been able to find out. I'm sure someone will be able to tell us. Of a sculptor actually making the sculpture, and Hazel Court sitting there.
Oh, amazing.
So I think it was very closely based on her. Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful, and it's just really nice to see it as I say, just as a very naturally figured woman, you know, in all of her prime, really. So,
and of course, this is Bonnet's first attempt to immortalise her.
Yes.
Even if she doesn't want to become immortal like him, he will always have that statue to remind him of how gorgeous.
So is this why he makes the statues of all the ladies, so that he can take them with him? Okay.
I think so.
That makes sense.
His way of imposing immortality on them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, with Janine, he wants to go one step further and actually make her immortal.
And take him with her.
You know, if you're going through the whole of life and you're living hundreds of years, you'd probably want to keep keepsakes like that of the people you've met.
Yeah, that does make sense,
you know?
Of course.
Yeah. So the beautiful women, you know, beautiful men in your life, you'd probably want some sort of keepsake of them. That sounds creepy. That sounds a bit serial killer, doesn't it? But some sort of...
Yeah, we're not talking trophies.
Yeah, I'm not taking souvenirs. No. It's well, he kind of does in a way, doesn't he? Sort of. But I think, you know, you'd want that thing. And in an age before photography, and certainly an age before video, this was his way of immortalising.
Yeah, of course.
But particularly Janine, I think. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking a little bit about, you know, the state of the world in 1959. So let's move on to our little feature that we do, where we look at what was going on in the world, mainly the UK, at the time that this film was released. So here is Hammer in History.
Hammer in History.
All right, Kev, we're in 1959.
We are. I've kind of missed this, can I say, because we had so many films made in 1958 and so many films made in 1959 that it feels like I was beginning to think, has she forgotten about this bit? But
absolutely
because
not.
I've just so much stuff. Yeah.
I've been using my my editorial decision making to decide when best to slot it in. So here we are.
Quite right.
This is our last film of Hammers that we are going to be covering from 1959. So here is the history to go alongside. So in the UK, we had a general election which resulted in a record third successive Tory victory. So the Conservatives are back in power yet again. And among the new MPs who entered the Commons for the first time is the future Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, right.
So this is where it all begins.
As a 20-something in the 1980s, I have a lot of thoughts about Margaret Thatcher. None of them particularly nice.
You may have heard me say that slightly through gritted teeth. Okay.
Yeah, moving on quickly.
On to other matters. I thought that this was worth mentioning because of the discussion we had about the opening scene. And obviously I know that it was set in Paris.
Sure.
But in 1959, there was absolute chaos brought to Britain because of dense fog throughout the country.
Yes.
What one may refer to as a right pea super.
Oh, you've been watching too many Hammer films now, haven't you? It's a proper pea soup for a no mistake.
Exactly. This one surprised me because I guess I'd never really given it any thought, but I'm surprised that it wasn't till 1959 that this happened. UK postcodes were introduced for the first time. I'd never really thought about it, but I just assumed that postcodes had always been a thing.
Same here. Yeah. I'm quite surprised it was 1959 as well. I'm just like, yeah, didn't they come in Victorian times when the postal service started, that sort of thing?
No, apparently 1959, and even at that point it was just experimental, and they started in Norwich.
Wow.
There you go.
And here we are all these years later and they still can't deliver my bloody packages to the right address. But anyway, moving on.
For anybody who is interested in horror and especially, so I've been looking quite a lot into video nasties recently for some work I've been doing on something else, which all sort of comes back to this. But in 1959, the Obscene Publications Act first became law. Yes. Keeping an eye on all of the, well, I assume, Hazel Court's boobs mainly.
Well, that would have been part of it because they would have been deemed obscene, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this is another just nice sort of pop culture moment, especially as we are on the absolute border of the 1960s.
Yep.
The first classic Mini appeared in showrooms. A 2-door, 10-foot-long car with an 848cc 4-cylinder transverse engine. None of this means anything to me. I'm just reading it. And a top speed of 70 miles an hour, designed to carry the driver and 3 passengers and their luggage in comfort. It would remain in production until the year 2000.
What a beautiful piece of design.
An icon.
I've developed this reputation in my commentaries for being a bit of a car nut because I talk about the cars. I just look them up online. I'm no car expert. I know the Mini and I know the Aston Martins. Mm-hmm. And when I'm a millionaire, when this podcast pays dividends and we're rolling in the millions...
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Yes, can't wait. I'm going to buy a Mini and I'm going to buy an Aston Martin. I can't drive. I'll never get in and out of them. I'm too tall, but I'm going to just buy them and put them in the garage. And on Sunday mornings, I'm going to go down and I'm going to sit and stroke them because they are gorgeous bits of design.
That's absolutely true.
The aesthetics of them
I would put them up there with the Ford Capri, which is my personal favourite.
Oh, yes, that's another good one. Yeah, here we go. There's another podcast, Cars in Horror Movies. Go on.
Becky and Kev's favourite cars. Neither of us can drive.
We'll be the new, really shit Top Gear, wouldn't we?
Well, we couldn't be any worse, to be fair. Anyway, moving on. Elsewhere in television, Associated Rediffusion first airs the children's television series Ivor the Engine, made by Oliver Postgate and Peter Firmin's Small Films in stop-motion animation using cardboard cutouts. Kev, would you like to tell the audience, anybody who doesn't know what Ivor the Engine is?
Ivor the Engine is a Welsh steam engine and his many adventures, most of which involve going backwards and forwards on a flat background. And, I'm sure if you showed it to kids of a certain age now, they'd go, oh, what's this? Back then, we were riveted. And I wasn't born in 1959, not quite yet. I've got a couple of years yet. They were still showing it right through, I think, right into the 1970s.
Well, I mean,
they were showing this programme.
I saw it as a kid, and I can't think where else I would have seen it if it wasn't on, little reruns here and there.
It's a classic.
It's a classic, and I treated myself this morning when I was writing up my Hammer in History to look it up on YouTube, and they're all on YouTube, and they're like 4.5 minutes an episode.
Beautiful.
And the first one, all he does is he gets out of his little, so he's got a driver, but he's a steam engine, and he comes out of his little shed where he lives, and he goes and picks up some coal, picks up some fridge and some fish and some tomatoes, poodles up the tracks around his little Welsh mining village where he lives, drops off the coal and the fish and the tomatoes, then goes down to a choir rehearsal because he is a member of the local little choir.
Of course he is.
Of course he is. Has a little sing-song, credits. And I was beaming from ear to ear.
As soon as we finish this, I'm going to go and find that and watch that.
Honestly,
that's amazing. I love it.
It's just joyful. And also, what you didn't get in that one, but I definitely remember from later, is he has little Welsh red dragons that live in his engine.
That's right. Yeah. It's basically, it's Thomas the Tank Engine without all the sex, violence and action.
Little less Ringo Starr.
Little less Ringo Starr and a little bit more sort of old-fashioned. And honest to God, go watch it. Stop listening to us. Go and watch one episode now. Come back in 4.5 minutes
exactly.
and tell us you've fallen in love. It's gorgeous.
It's so gorgeous. And
let's not talk about the man who could cheat death anymore. Let's talk about Ivor the
rest about Ivor the Engine. But no, we must move on. So, music, the best-selling single in the UK in 1959 was Living Doll by Cliff Richards.
Hey, yes.
Banger. And Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club opened in the Soho district of London, which is still there to this day, doing good business.
Yes.
And in film, the highest grossing film of 1959 was the religious epic Ben-Hur.
Of course it was, yes.
Which went on to win a record 11 Academy Awards. Which, now, producer Mike will be tearing his hair out at this point because he is the Oscars expert. But I think it was then Ben-Hur until Titanic, wasn't it?
I think so. I'm not much of a one for awards, to be honest.
No.
I'm of the opinion, if you haven't seen all the films or listened to all the albums that year, how can you possibly decide what's best?
Well, we'll need...
That said, if anybody wants to give us an award for this,
we'd be delighted.
Brilliant. I'll be knocking the other two over to get to this.
And that £1 million as well.
And that £1 million. Get that £1 million. Just find me on email and just wire it over to me. But yeah, I think it was a huge success, wasn't it, Ben? It
absolutely
was
enormous.
About as far away from the man who could cheat death as you could possibly imagine. This tiny film made by a tiny little production company, and then this massive studio.
That's
epic,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Which if you haven't seen it, do see it because it is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's like Gladiator before Gladiator, basically.
That's right. It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Elsewhere in the top 10 highest grossing films were some absolute classics. Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot. Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest and Otto Preminger's Anatomy of a Murder. I mean, if there's a triple bill, you
could go and see North by Northwest. Now, have I mentioned this before? I possibly have, to see my second or third or 57th removed cousin.
Oh, I don't think you've ever mentioned this.
I must have mentioned this. If not, I'm going to give you this because it is quite amusing, I think. We were the Duke and Duchess de Lyons in France, hence Lyons. When the revolution happened, we showed the overwhelming family trait and legged it. And we went as far as we could, which was Ireland, and settled there. And part of the family came back to England. And somehow, in one of those things where the story falls apart, or it's just the English language not working, the Lyonses became the Leaches over time.
Oh, my God, I know where you're going with this.
Young Archibald sets off from Bristol to make his fame and fortune, changes his name to Cary Grant, and when you see me, I think it's fairly obvious I'm related to Cary Grant. I mean, just look at me.
It's uncanny.
I'm the sort of, to be fair, I'm the Frankenstein version of Cary Grant. I'm what Frankenstein would have made out of bits of Cary Grant, but
Is this where I jump in and go, Kev, no, Kevin.
Yeah, again, it'd be too late. Sod off. Yeah. But apparently, the family's legend is that he's my 70 millionth time removed cousin or something. And I've always said if I had a tenth of his talents, 100th of his money and 1,000,000th of his looks, I'd have had a much more exciting life than I've led. Wouldn't that have been amazing? But I don't know if it's true.
We may not be here right now doing this if that was the case, Kev. So,
And there's a dozen people out there just now sighing, thinking, oh, God, if only.
If only.
If only.
Well, let us bring this Hammer in History to a close with just a quick nod to the rest of the horror genre, because in 1959, William Castle released not one but two classics of the genre, The Tingler and House on Haunted Hill, both released this year.
This, I think, is where we're seeing the Hammer effect. We're starting to see independent producers in America starting to pick up horror films again. Having done science fiction throughout the 50s, now it's like Hammer have brought horror screaming back onto the big screen. And we're going to see a lot more of that over the next few years. We're going to see the rise of Roger Corman and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to see independent British filmmakers jumping on the bandwagon. We'll have a lot to say about horror films as we go along, and it's all down to this Hammer effect.
God, I love that.
They were so popular and so successful that they'd have been stupid not to have jumped on a bandwagon.
Speaking of Hammer, we have got some very familiar faces elsewhere in the cast of The Man Who Could Cheat Death. We've already mentioned a couple of them.
We have.
Let's talk briefly about Christopher Lee as Dr. Pierre Girard, because he doesn't have a huge amount to do in this film, certainly compared to other much more prominent roles that we've seen him in.
It's a bit of a nothing role in a way. It's kind of role anybody could have played. There's nothing I think that Lee could bring to this as it was written. He does what he does with it, and you know, of course, every time he appears on screen, the film goes up a gear because it's Christopher Lee, and he's not in it as much as I would like. He disappears for great chunks of the film, and one little interesting point, though. Sorry, Anorak's going back on. He's playing Dr. Pierre Girard. Mm-hmm. We are going to see Dr. Pierre Girard again. Or at least we're going to see another character called Dr. Pierre Girard, played by Christopher Lee.
Oh, my God.
He's playing that character in the first of the Hammer psychological horrors, Taste of Fear, or Scream of Fear, as it was in the States. Why he's got the same character name, I don't know. Maybe he became immortal. Maybe he learned...
my God.
Oh, I've just thought of that.
Twist.
I've just thought of that.
Twist.
Oh, maybe he found the notes and became immortal, and then he turns up in 1960s. Where I can't remember where that film was set.
That actually makes perfect sense, Kev, because obviously at the end of the film, he doesn't do the operation, he just makes the incision.
That's
so
right.
He's nicked the gland.
Yes, he's made off with the glands. And I think Taste of Fear, I could be wrong, I should know this, I did a commentary for it a long time ago. I think it's set in France.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Right, some fan fiction writers out there, get to it.
Yeah.
We want to know the intervening years of Dr. Pierre Girard. But there you go. I literally just thought of that as we were talking about it. But
that is so
cool. Great, isn't it? But yeah, he will turn up as the same character name. And I think when we get to Taste of Fear, we are going to definitively say it's the same Dr. Pierre Girard.
We will absolutely.
Just to rattle a few cages, basically.
Yeah, we're making it canon.
We are, yes.
But yeah, I mean, there's not, you know, what else can you say about this, really? It's just Christopher Lee being good in a slightly nothingy role.
Yeah.
I would say elsewhere, and, you know, we've already talked about it a little bit, but Arnold Mahler as Professor Ludwig Weiss, I just think is the best thing in this film. I think he's remarkable.
I'd make a claim for Hazel Court being the best thing of the film.
Yeah, fair.
I think Arnold Mahler is right on her heels, to be honest. I think he's lovely. Yeah. Hasn't he got a fascinating face?
Fascinating face.
He looks like he's already lived like half a dozen lifetimes.
I know.
It's amazing. You know, there's a film about immortality, but he's got a face that looks so lived in.
Yeah.
You could watch him for hours, couldn't you? It's incredible.
We spoke about Francis de Wolf a couple of weeks ago.
We did. And just to say that he's an incredible voice. And in fact, one of those moments I'd sort of drifted off a bit from the film last night.
Yeah.
I drifted back in as soon as he came in. Mm-hmm. And he starts to talk. And you just think, oh, he's Francis de Wolf.
Yeah.
You know, because he's had such a distinctive and brilliant voice. Absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, again, it was one of those moments where the film perked up a bit because here comes someone brilliant.
Yeah, agreed. So he's playing Inspector Legree.
That's right.
Who has come to basically investigate the fact that Margot, who is the new model, when we were talking earlier about Georges doing his, or unveiling his new statue, Margot is the new model, the new lover.
Yep.
She's madly in love with him. And she sort of comes to his door at the end of the reception while he is busy trying to take his green bubbling liquid to make sure that he doesn't basically die while he's waiting for this operation.
Yes.
And she wants to talk about her feelings and their relationship. And he's like...
bloody women, they're hopeless, aren't they? Bloody girls.
Outrageous. Would you give this man some space? So he's like, I can't talk about your feelings in our relationship right now. I need to do something.
Yes.
But he doesn't obviously say to her, I need to take this bubbling potion because otherwise I'm going to transform into a monster and kill you.
Yes.
So she doesn't take the hint, and he doesn't get to take his potion in time, and so he turns into a monster and kills her.
Yes.
This is quite brutal.
It is.
There's some incredible makeup, which I want to come back to when we talk about the sort of general horror of the film.
Yep.
But he kills Margot, or so we think. And Francis de Wolf then turns up as Inspector Legree to sort of look into it. And so this is where you get the slightly more kind of procedural element of the film, which does at least sort of add a bit more kind of
interest
zhuzh to what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also Michael Ripper Bingo.
He's not in it.
Isn't he?
No.
Because he's on the cast list, Kevin.
He's on the cast list, and he was in the press book, but he was playing a morgue attendant.
Yeah.
The scene was shot, but it was cut before it was released.
Right, everybody put your bingo cards away. I'm sorry, but
that's for another week.
Your bingo caller has made a mistake. Michael Ripper is in the cast, but isn't in the movie.
Exactly. Yeah, but it must have been a very last minute thing, because obviously they prepared the credits at this stage. They decided to remove that scene for whatever reason, I suspect for length, because it's about 95 minutes, this film. So slightly longer than their usual fare at this point. And so maybe they just removed it for timing reasons. And they weren't going to go to the trouble, and more importantly, the expense of redoing the credits.
Yeah.
So they just left it in there and hoped that no one would notice. Well, because I'm guessing in the late 50s, most people still didn't really know who Michael Ripper was. Well,
apparently I still don't really know who Michael Ripper is, because I didn't notice that he wasn't even in the film.
He wasn't even there. You didn't notice. Oh, your education. I'm failing you on this, aren't I?
This is why I'm still calling myself a newbie up top. This is why, you see. I've still got some learning to do.
We're not going to change that for a while now, I don't think. I was thinking about changing, but no. But no, you're quite right. He's in the credits, and he's in the press book, and he was there, the publicity materials, but he's not actually in the finished film.
Shame. Well, that's ruined my game of bingo for the day.
Sacrilege, I'd say, cutting out Michael Ripper.
I agree.
Of all the things that are wrong with this film, Michael Ripper would not been the one I would have got rid of, frankly.
Right, yeah. In fact, maybe it would have been better if he was in it. Did you ever think about that, Hammer?
Everything is better with Michael Ripper.
Exactly.
Everything. I don't care what it is. He's just better.
So let's talk about the horror. I've just sort of teased a bit about what happens to poor Margot. We talked a bit about the kind of the murders and the Jack the Ripper vibes, because he has to, Bonet has to get these glands, and he's had to do more murders than usual because poor Dr. Weiss has had his stroke, and so he is delayed in getting to Paris.
Yeah.
And so Bonet's glands keep going off.
Yes, yeah.
So he has to keep getting fresh
so
ones. And as I say, he attacks Margot when she sort of intercepts him trying to get his potion, which obviously he's having to drink every sort of 6 hours because he can't have this operation because he's waiting for Weiss. And there is this amazing moment where you sort of see the transformation. It's relatively simple in terms of the actual transformation of the Doctor himself. You first sort of see it in his eyes. He's got these very large, very pale sort of contacts in.
Yes, that's right.
Then there's a greenening to his skin.
Greenening.
And then you sort of see it on his hands, and he reaches out as she screams. He reaches out and puts his hand over Margot's face, and as he pulls it away, he sort of leaves this burn, like this hand-shaped burn across her whole face. Which really reminded me, actually, of one of the brilliant effects that we spoke about in Dracula, which is when, they're pressing
the crucifix
to Lucy's head. Yeah. It looked very similar to me, and no less effective. It looked really nasty.
It is nasty. You were saying about doing the video nasties earlier. 1959, this was a video nasty, if video existed. Because this was intense stuff, and you can imagine the censors were not happy with a lot of this stuff. A lot of it was cut and removed, but it is completely horrible. I can't quite work out why somebody turning old and then putting their hands on you would make you burn.
Nope.
I would imagine they'd be quite icy, to be honest, being that old, with poor blood supply and blood pressure and all the
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like a cold burn.
A cold burn. But he looks amazing.
It does. It's so
and, you know,
good.
we'll meet Margot again later, played brilliantly, I think, by Delphi Lawrence.
She is
terrific.
so good.
So good in this. We meet her again when she's been transformed into the archetypal mad woman in the attic.
Yeah.
Except it's a basement.
Yeah,
but it's the same character, the same archetype of that mad woman in the attic. And one failing of the script a little bit here is that Janine finds her and they never talk. They never have a conversation. You would think the two women who'd been sort of, you know, mistreated by this one guy would have at least said hello to each other. Mm-hmm. But there's no communication there. It kind of feels like they were rushing to get towards an ending.
The Bechdel test wasn't a thing in 1959.
It wasn't, was it? No, the chicks don't want to talk to each other. Let's get on with the violence and the fire and the gore and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's... She's terrific in it. She's so creepy.
She's so creepy, Kev. So this is what I was going to say. There's a really different element to the horror in this sort of later, well, like closing moments of the film. So you've had, you know, the sort of the monster makeup element. You've had the murder. You've had the special effects makeup and the gore. This really leans into creepy.
It does, doesn't it?
And she's got this like mad giggle.
Yes.
That just sounds like she has been sent out of her mind.
Yeah.
And it is really unsettling. And
it's
delivered brilliantly by Delphi Lawrence.
It's second only to that mad giggle in The Evil Dead, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that
is
sort of
reminiscent of that,
laugh.
definitely.
It is. Yeah. But she's terrific. She's so good in it. And yeah, like you say, it is that creepy laughing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
She's so insane.
Yeah.
That she's, you know, willing to effectively burn herself alive just to get rid of...
Yeah. Well, and...
We warned you this would be spoilery.
Yeah. And this is where we get to what I think is going to become potentially another Hammer Time bingo square. Because at the end of the film, Janine finds Margot. Mm-hmm. Bonnet comes down and he hasn't had the operation, as we said earlier.
Yeah.
Dr. Gerard has sort of he's done a bait and switch, so he hasn't actually done the operation and given him the gland. And so because of that, and because he hasn't been taking his elixir, because Vice smashed it all on the floor earlier, he basically like desiccates, right? So there's this line at one point where he talks about if I were to not get the operation, all of my 104 years, every blemish, every sort of illness of my life will all catch up on me all at once.
Well, that's interesting, that line, because I think that ties in with something that the makeup artist Roy Ashton said about creating that look at the end, where he said... I felt that the final effect should be a cocktail of fatal diseases spreading rapidly across his body. Oh, wow. Glandular fever, smallpox, cholera, typhus and typhoid, representing some of the ailments that Bonnet has come in contact with as a crusading physician.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that great? So that's what he was going for. You spotted that in it, and that's exactly what... he was going for, and presumably that came from that line of dialogue.
That's so cool.
Amazing. And
it really is this, and it really reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes, yeah.
When the evil Nazi drinks the wrong potion.
That's right, yeah.
Or the potion, you know what I mean?
I know,
drinks from the wrong cup. And he sort of basically just sort of ages very, very quickly and then turns to dust and blows away. This really had an element of that to it, or rather the other way round. I would imagine that Spielberg or the effects people on that may have seen this, but he just suddenly is exactly that. He is almost immediately goes from being, you know, looking like a 40-year-old man to looking like a 104-year-old man, plus all of these
riddled with
sort of
disease.
ailments. Exactly. It's amazing.
Ultimate body horror again, isn't it?
Absolutely that. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Terrific.
And as he sort of crumbles away in front of poor Janine. I mean, God.
Yes. Oh.
I hope that she does decide that Dr. Pierre Girard is the right man for her after all, actually, because she could do with some comforting after this ordeal that she's been through.
After going through this, she could have lived the rest of her life with Christopher Lee. I think that's fair reward.
I do as well. Yeah. I do as well. So then Mad Margot, as I've dubbed her, throws the torch. It catches Georges on his clothes. He goes up. Pierre comes down, grabs Janine. He takes them away up the stairs to safety. And what you get is basically the basement going up in flames with the screams of Margot and Bonnet kind of just like, you know, sort of echoing over the credits. And when I say that this may be an early iteration of our new bingo square for Hammer Time, it's because a Hammer horror film ends on a fire, Kev. And as I understand it, this becomes a bit of a thing.
It does. And I think... Thinking back, this is the first one, isn't it?
It is, I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember the others ending in flame. But yes, of course it became... And it's a throwback to the Universal days, isn't it? With the torch-wielding mobs as you buy to Frankenstein's castle. It's kind of an archetype of screen horror. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, it's one of those films, isn't it? A bit like... Curse of Frankenstein, where all of the evidence is gone.
Yes, of course.
No one's going to believe Janine, if she ever talks about it again, or Pierre, because where's the evidence?
Well, I tell you what, it's living in Dr. Pierre Girard's sight, because now he's immortal and we're going to see him again in a few weeks, Kevin. That's where.
That's where it is. I'd already forgotten that we were going to do that, but yes. I know the joy of getting old. You forget what you say about 30 seconds after you said it.
Okay, so neither of us are the hugest fan, but what did other people think of it? How did it do commercially?
Well, we know that the critics, we know what they thought, because it's the same thing every time. They're very mixed on it. Mostly didn't like it. But this time the audiences sort of joined in. Got released, it disappeared, and made very little impression.
Oh, okay.
It didn't make a loss. It did okay at the box office, but it didn't do the kind of numbers that we were expecting from the Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy. This took, money. Yeah. You know, it was probably the kind of money that they were making prior to doing the Gothics.
Right.
And they wanted more of the Gothic.
Yeah, of course.
As its audiences, I think once the word got around that it wasn't providing what those other Gothics provided, then audiences were thinking, oh, we'll give this one a miss.
Yeah.
We'll get the next one. And the next one, as we're going to talk about in a minute, is a stone cold classic. So they were right to wait. But it was a bit hit and miss at the box office.
Okay. Maybe they went and saw The Tingler instead.
Well, I would.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah, I would. It's a great film, The Tingler.
It's come to that moment. We're going to have to rank it. Elite, upper, middle or lower, Kev?
Well, like I said at the beginning, this is a milestone for me because this is going to be my first middle.
Ooh.
Very creditable middle. You know, we're not talking... You know, we're nowhere near Horror of Frankenstein yet. We are still, you know, and as time goes on, all these rankings, I say that this is the worst one we've seen so far, or the least impressive one we've seen so far. As we go along, that will move up because other less impressive films will slide in behind it. So it's not the worst film Hammer we're ever going to make. I just find it hugely disappointing. So
I'm going to join you in the middle for this one. Like I say, I think I did like it slightly more than you.
Yes, I think so.
But it's definitely not upper material.
No, it's not. It's not.
So firmly in the middle regions. But I'll come on to do my outro, but you've just teased the fact that next week's is an exciting one.
Some people have said you're quite long, these podcasts, aren't they? Buckle up. Next week is going to be hours on end because it's one of the greatest films ever made.
Love it. I cannot wait. Thanks for listening to Hammer Time. We'll be back next week with, we've teased it, but it's the first Hammer horror from the 1960s, and it's an exciting one. It is Brides of Dracula. To check the full list of movies we'll be covering throughout this podcast, head to evolutionofhorror.com/hammer. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us questions or comments for upcoming mailbag episodes. And that episode is getting closer, people. So if you're going to send us a question or a comment, do it now. You can drop us an email to hammer@evolutionofhorror.com. You can follow the Evolution of Horror Network on Instagram at EOH_network. You can follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Bunny Darke. Kev, tell people where they can find you.
Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Letterboxd. Just look me up, EOFF TV.
Perfect.
And thank you to everybody. I keep saying this. Thank you to everybody. After every episode that goes out, loads more people come on board. It's fantastic. I love it.
It's great. Yeah, thank you everybody for your continuing support and feedback.
Yes. Yeah.
You can, if you haven't yet, support us by rating and reviewing us on your podcast app of choice. Thank you for listening, and join us next week for another episode of Hammer Time.